So everybody, it's Amon here, welcome back to my videos. Hope you guys are having a great day. In today's video, I'm going to be debunking a video on Dead by Daylight that I don't agree with. I don't really talk about Dead by Daylight that much. I had not much to say. Saw this video, didn't really agree with it. It is which killers could beat Dead by Daylight's interview. Hope you guys' day is going good as well. Now, some of it I agree with, but a lot of the maybe hear people that he talks about, his arguments and reasons, doesn't make any sense to me. And obviously, I don't agree with this. I'm going to debunk it. There's a lot of precise proof, and some of what he does show up doesn't make sense. But it's not really going to add up. And he contradicts his arguments a lot in this.
Killers could beat the entity. I'm also going to mention and outline the killers who could rebel but wouldn't be able to beat the entity.
You know, actually, I was going to just go by and just list off the arguments that he says, but I kind of just want to go through all of these killers in my own opinion. Just would it make sense? And also, I know that Nemesis out, and by that he doesn't have a chance at all, because Nemesis is not smart enough. The entity is omnipotent. To everybody here that's been confirmed, you do not know his power. He says the entity could, and none of the killers here any predominant way to go ahead and stop the entity at all. None of the arguments that he makes really have a predominant factor that takes him out, but I want to
currently have 23 killers in the game. Let's see which ones don't like to be gauged. So, right off, who can we rule out first? A lot of the killers we can rule out right away are the ones that are just basically people holding weapons, so any killers without some supernatural element or weapon just isn't going to stand a chance against something that is supernatural. It's mentioned in the lore that the entity's claws are as tough as iron, and seeing as the claws are a part of it, then you're going to need something other than an ordinary weapon to break it. So, first off, Legion. Legion are a group of teenagers, and although they'd stick by one another till the end, they would not have a chance to take down the entity, especially as their powers seem to have been derived directly from it. Without it, they're just teenagers, so they're out. Next up, Trickster. Same goes for Trickster. He's a musician, he's pretty crazy, sure, he's good with his knives and has a cool bat, but he's not going to be able to beat the entity. Similar to Legion, he's just a guy with a bat without the entity's influence. Further, Bubba and Pig. Both Bubba and Pig, two of our licensed characters, are just
Leatherface is
people.
superhuman.
Pig is a little confused, and Bubba is also kind of confused. They're both misguided in their intentions, and I think although they may want to fight back, they wouldn't have the capability to, as again, they're pretty regular people.
Let's go have a player obviously. Start off with her.
Plague. Finally, Adiris is kind of a sad one because it seems the way she perceives the entity is actually as her savior, and the god she worshipped her entire life to please. So I think just getting her to turn against her god is unlikely. If it was somehow revealed to her that it wasn't really her god, it might still not work. Her power seems to come around in combination of her loyalty and the fact that she is plagued when taken by the entity. I think she's ruled out though. So we have Trapper.
It's because of the fact that one, like you said before, she thinks it's her god, so she'll always have a predominant loyalty. But entity is omnipotent compared to her. In his realm, he dissolves all the confirmation for what they can do. Unless any of these characters can disembowel reality, like some like Executioner / Pyramid Head, debatably, which if we go by the confirmation of how he is, his lore, Pyramid Head was a servitude of a nickname by one of the characters of Silent Hill. It's not different from his name. She had a bunch of different other nicknames, but obviously I get it's a precipitate for how he's like in the fornication, for how he's like in his exterior, what he does, indications. He doesn't do things that this full pyramid. It's just like a fornication of how he's like within his take, how things are like. You feel me? I'm just saying if we go by name and stuff, that's what I'm saying. I'm not actually trying to discredit the fact that he's the Pyramid Head is obviously his name. No matter if it's a name or anything, that's what you possess as the person. I'm not trying to go lecture it, doesn't just trying to make sure that's the form of what I'm trying to say.
Nurse, Maya's Hag, Freddy's Spirit, Demogorgon, Oni, Deathslinger, Pyramid Head, and Blight remaining. Not too bad. Next, let's think about who the best bets are. Who are the best bets to take down the entity? Well, right off, Pyramid Head. This is going to be the character everyone...
I'm not going to get on this because everything he's saying is right in general. Some of his point arguments are not persistent form of what is the actual case. Pyramid, I'm just going to give you a flat out Pyramid Head, depending on the confirmation of how he does things, how he sees the entity. he could discourage the form of reality and bondage. But if we go by the highball sentiment that the entity is omnipotent, nothing the Pyramid Head can do against that. Because one, entity can rewrite the form for what Pyramid Head could see as sinful and discouraging, and implicate him as an executioner for survivors. And the executioner sees a lot of the dreadful form of things that the survivors have done in some different cases. Not all the survivors are bad, but some of the survivors could be doing stuff that the executioner here could think is not adversarial to take for good form of care, bondage, gratitude, and everything for how the survivors see things. Because with Pyramid Head, he has a lot of precise form of moral integrity, but a lot of it is just bloodlust and ignorant combination of things. Pettiness as well. I've never played a Silent Hill games, but a lot of things I've seen, his moral integrity for what is right and what's wrong is a weird, vibrant conversation in things. So I don't really know if it's a true thing or not, but he can perceive it like that. But morally, it's just the entity's omnipotent, so he can just discourage every found for how he can do stuff. But his argument that just because Pyramid Head does stuff out of the entity's normal conception is stupid, because he allows other killers to do that as well. Plus, the entity wants to be the most entertaining of corruption in this game of Dead by Daylight. So he doesn't necessarily need to allow them to do it, but he could do this to have fun. He can nerf and rewrite the form of how these characters can do this just to make it more even, more precise, and funny. That's why he took out guns and everything Nemesis would have in this game, so it's more even and suffice. Because realistically, if Nemesis wanted to, motherfucker will take his guns and slaughter everybody. Man so tall he don't even carry them on his shoulder. He just packs them onto the fucking hooks, and when trying to slam my hand down, just put my hand down and fucking fell, and I'm like mad about it or anything. So make that clear. That sounds like so out of hand, passive aggressive. I did not mean to do that. I'll fucking edit that out, but I'm just trying to make that as peculiar form of what I'm trying to say. But he just pikes them, like I said before, on the hooks. Those are the slaughter Goliath stuff, just because he's too at a predominant factor for how the entity would have could be like. But no, the entity don't care, because it's funny. It's amusing. But I'm just going to skip, because I agree on most of the main things May talks about with Pyramid Head. Frey just says the Frey can't do that much because the entity needs to be asleep. You're right. I know the entity could be asleep. It's just corruption incarnate. Michael Myers, you're irrelevant. Hold up, wait a minute.
Given his
I saw that check mark.
and
You're
the
not going to do that
fact
to
he
me.
evil, a decent chance at beating the entity. I mean, embodying pure evil is a pretty big deal, and he's also clearly immortal. At least all of the things we see in the films, like knives, guns...
Okay, no, you're lying. He's not immortal. Just because he doesn't die by some things in the movies does not mean he's immortal. That's the same thing with Jason Voorhees. Just because he doesn't die by some things in the movie doesn't mean he's fully immortal to everything. Michael Myers has almost died by a bunch of different things. He just lives because... Bless me. Okay. He lives... Okay, sorry guys. It's cold. I'm gonna get this cover in my butt. He lives because of debatable plot relevance, and because of the fact that a lot of the main side things that he does against certain things has a big form of superhuman abilities. Gets hurt by shotgun bullets, gets hit by knives, and they penetrate him, hurt him, he screeches out in pain, he almost dies, different implications of his character, and all around, he's not fully immortal. And technically, if we go by one version of Michael Myers, he actually has died. I think it was the Rob Zombie version. I do not know, but it's not necessarily a precise comment of him dying, though, because it's objective. Because you don't know if he died. Same thing with the reboot in 2018. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter either way. Doesn't mean he's immortal. And also, he's not fully pure evil and corruption like the entity. The entity is a incarnate of something. He's an avatar of death and darkness. Michael Myers just loves killing people. Because they process him as that does not mean he is that. You can say the same thing with Superman. Superman's the Man of Steel. Does that mean he's actually the Man of Steel? That argument doesn't work to me. That's actually pretty stupid. I don't agree with that at all. And then his reason for Demogorgon is kind of stupid.
Or extensions to itself. I think the fact that Demo could potentially provide the backup of another huge realm-dominating entity shouldn't be disregarded, though. So we're giving Demo a tick, but it's with the fact
But
that
the Demogorgon can't do that though, because one, it's not smart. Because it comes from another realm doesn't mean it can process that. That's the thing. Plus, the entity has been shown obviously to take a bunch of people from different realms. So if he's able to discourage the embodiment of that realm to take somebody, what is the formula of that entity in that realm discouraging the defilement of how entity is like? And also, the Stranger Things realm for where the Demogorgon and a bunch of other beings come from is not really sufficiently understood, especially since it has a Cthulhu mythos type of feel. So that's not really a good argument. Until we get more from Stranger Things as a whole, you can't really assess that.
the Mind Flayer would be behind it in mind, because I mean that's probably their best shot, honestly. You'll notice up to this point I've excluded most of the non-licensed characters, and that's because broadly the licensed characters are a ton more powerful than most of the non-licensed ones. We have killers that in their own stories are immortal and have insane degrees of power. So let's look into the underdogs now. First off, Trapper. The reason I didn't want to eliminate Trapper right away is because he has defied the entity before, evidenced by the hooks that puncture his flesh.
Okay, no, that's not evidence. I've actually looked this up on my own time. I've never seen any proof from the creators of the game that the hooks on his body mean torture by the entity. Also, the entity, in my own opinion, is omnipotent. Let's just say that, right? Why would he go out his way to torture the Trapper like that? You could say a occasional assessment and feel and laughter to torture people and do all this overzealous stuff to people because of it being corruption incarnate. But why doesn't it just torture his mind to make him go into his big bottled up fear and disaster and make him be corrupted with his plunge in darkness? Why waste time tearing his body with all that shit just to get a fucking win? In my opinion, a lot of that shit seems like he got that from fights, either with people who were killed in the past or maybe even survivors. Not necessarily all of it, but I don't see how the entity tortures Trapper. You can make the theory that that is a perfection of Trapper feel for his character in your own right, because obviously with Dead by Daylight, a lot of lore is not possessive with information of fact. But you can't just implicate that as your own actual assessment of truth, because that's not confirmed by any of the creators. So you can't just make that predominant factual thing. This isn't creepypasta or some other different form of implicating where you write out stories on your own and you could proclaim that as that. You can't do that. That's not how that works. If you want to make a story of how the Trapper gets tortured by the entity with all that, that's fine, but that's not actually a form of truth here if we want to go by what has been said by the people who made the game, lore director, creator, writer, whatever. It's not for what happened. It's not saying his lore. It's not saying any form of his bio. And it makes no sense anyway. Why doesn't the entity just torture him in celestial ways? Why would he possess a big amount of his time to torture him like that? Again, the entity could love splurging about doing corruptive shit to go and torture Trapper. Evan McMillan will be his fucking ragdoll. Pause. But I don't think it's precarious for him to go ahead and do that. Again, that's my opinion. I have no factual evidence, but even then, it doesn't really matter. And even if this is the truth, where he has tried to fight him, it didn't fucking work. So just discourage him right out the rip. I know that's what he does in this, because obviously I've watched the video before. But it just doesn't really make sense to have that as a profiling aspect of truth that is the case. And I argued with somebody about it before, and they even proved me wrong with it. It actually just went off on me about grammar. I know someone actually get mad about grammar on YouTube. I love it. But he's irrelevant here. And then with the nurse, he talks about how because she can skip between a different realm, she'll be able to escape. Well, one entity allowed her to process into that ability. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then that's her own accountability. But if he's able to take her from the realm where she's from, then I think he discouraged the reality of that ability to be from for her to escape at all. Plus, if that was the case, why is she blitzing around in this world and not doing that on her own precarious fun at the time. Because she did what she did out of broken insanity in the place of the asylum where she worked at. So I don't know how this is a peculiar factor to go ahead and do what she wants without the entity coming around and saying, bitch, where the fuck you going? Get your ass back here, boy. You can just fully discredit any form of her sanity to make her a puppet of his will. So, I mean, I don't really understand that. I mean, as a person to her ability to do that, because it became a bunch of different powers for these kills never had before. Then with the hag, this man talks about her having a connection to a being to let her trapped and do all this shit. It doesn't make sense. I'm going to let him finish, because I'm going to make sure I'm assessing what he's saying right. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the two other things I'm talking about here, I know for a fact is the
others
case.
Maybe by breaking through to the spirit world, which is what she does every time she blinks. Okay, let's return to Hag now, who I said I'd look at a bit earlier. Hag may seem like the most obvious elimination ever, but the thing is, prior to getting taken, she actually has some supernatural or magic potential in the hexes, curses, and more that are used within the lore. She can give herself luck, she can curse others. It literally causes the death of one of her friends. So it's like...
Okay, yeah, but that's implications on humans. And she doesn't even know that like that. And these curses have to be possessed onto people who have done unlawful, sinful things. That has been implicated in the story structure of her lore. And she's not that powerful to formicate curses on the Celestials. And we go by different implicating of curses in fiction. You can only curse things on your peculiar ascension of level. The entity is beyond her comprehension. Out of all of these killers, perception of comprehension all around. So there's no way the hag is cursing the entity. No. You're going to have to give me some better stellar proof, because that is blatant cap. He just talks about how Spirit and Oni would have a predominant thing to do. Yeah, he was right. And the Spirit doesn't matter. Oni is just a beast. He has nothing to do. What is he talking about with Death Swinger? Oh, this video is just blatantly wrong to me. I can't really watch it without just disagreeing.
Whilst phasing, but it's brief. These two for humans are unstoppable and probably unkillable. But for the entity, I don't think they're the right pick to take it down.
Look. Kazan Yakamoka is a great proficient warrior. His granddaughter, obviously, Kazan Yakamoka could only be in the spirit's ancestor, and the camera looks a little bit out. My bad, guys. To make sure I get the best lineup view. Is a beast as well, but she is not the great peculiar warrior as Kazan. You know, great amount of sword training, but Kazan is full-on general legend in his world. Man took on full-on small-scale squad of soldiers, militias, great potential armies of palaces and full-formed castles, and with the powers of an Oni by the top stand of scaling by Japanese mythology, folklore, and religion. His perception of power is way beyond normal comment of a human. You're telling me this motherfucker right here looks like a motherfucking human? What the fuck is this? These niggas ain't human. Not anymore, nigga. Like, no offense. I don't know what you're talking about. Destiny ain't human either. He's a fucking zombie.
He's an inventor of weaponry, and I think given the right set of tools, he could possibly craft...
But like I was saying, there's nothing about pursuit the factor that he can set up weapons, any type of company of tech that can go on the same form of levels as the entity. So this is this blatant bullshit. That makes no sense. You're telling me it's because he's an excellent suffice marksman that he can do that? You realize this is a fucking cowboy bounty hunter from the fucking 1800s. The entity as being that has been around for how long we know. A celestial entity. Literally the most peculiar form of occasion of godly essence we could ever even comprehend. We don't know what it can do. But if it's this high in advisement for capabilities, and it just discourages everybody's realm to bring them into its own pocket dimension, what is the perception to say that the Death Slinger, whatever he makes, is just going to be fucking pulled out into dust? Hey, really, please tell me, because I don't know how you culminate this as an argument. He's a fucking human? to zombie, superhuman, whatever being, the entity is celestial. And I'm saying for what we know, it's not perceptual take for how we would get the entity to be this and this and this. But if we go by the high compliment, how it's like, going for all these different steps in history, in different worlds, it has to be old as fuck, ancient, beyond deception, will take for how a character is like. And again, I'm glad I'm able to talk, but that's not a profound argument. That makes literally no sense at all. The blight has nothing. But let me go ahead and let him finish.
Because there is this literal thing infecting it with these flowers. It has to go through a purge because of what is likely some kind of pathogen. The fact that these things have the ability to alter the entity's environment as well as the killers inside of it, I think Blight has a good shot. So take for him. At the very least, he has the knowledge.
Me go and listen to the man before he's talking about
our finalists are Myers, Hag, Demogorgon, Deathslinger, Pyramid Head, and
maybe you might be right.
You may be wondering why he would have a shot. He's just a bouncy boy, right? Yes, but also no. Blight serum is made up of these orange flowers called blighted cankers. These things, every Halloween or every year or so inside of the entity's realm, basically infest the realm itself, and the entity has to purge them each year in order to restore it to normality. That's happening because there is this literal thing infecting it with these flowers. It has to go through a purge because of what is likely some kind of pathogen. The fact that these things have the ability to alter the entity's environment as well as the killers inside.
Okay, I understand that percent of how it's like. But if we go by the confirmation for how Blight is still stuck in Entity's realm, and the fact that Blight does not have the same peculiar confirmation of intelligence that he did when he was human, I don't see any fornicating for how he could, but let's say Blight does have the same certificate of his intelligence. Giving him some prep time, he could perform a way to go ahead and do that. But at the same time, it's not the same thing with Deathslinger, because Deathslinger only has one fornicating of bounds. He does not know the entire structure of the entity's realm or what the entity can consider. Blight is in entity's realm. This stuff discourages the format of the realm. The entity is weakened, right? That means that with enough time, Blight can persuade a factor to go ahead and set up something that could discourage the entity's realm. He could escape an entity stuck in his realm and cannot perfect a forward way to go ahead and discourage a different realm. At least for that form occasion of time, he won't be able to sue him. And maybe Blight could go ahead and discourage the advisement for where he's from, so the entity can never enclose him to get him back to his realm. And that's a perceptual way for our argument to be presented to his character. So I think that's pretty good. But overall, I didn't think this video was the best with a lot of different killers.
That is enough. Hey guys, editing Amon here, aka the Mon that's more enlightened now and grown up. This recording happened when I was 12 years old. I'm 15 now. I talk very dramatically, didn't have great line weight of talking about it. I still agree with a lot of points I made, but just to go and clean it up for the rest of the minutes that are part of this video, I don't agree with it because some of his takes on it, I wouldn't say are a state of arguments, to correct myself, are not just. He contradicts some of the points on it, and I don't think he looked into the information good, and some of it blatantly was dumb. No way can Deathslinger make a weapon to fight for our account. The entity being celestial. There's a good adept argument / a point for how he could stop the entity and not discredit / discourage, even though it kind of works like that, but mainly dissert the realm / stop the entity from opening up a way to contain where he was at / contain him in the realm, because these flowers can distort the normal form of connection of the realm that it's placed in and free others to do other stuff. So he's not necessarily going to be fighting entity, he's more of just running away. This meant in fighting. So he's right, but it's not necessarily the point of the video. And then with a bunch of other cases, he's just wrong, doesn't have proof. The person that I'm talking about here, I don't hate his videos, I don't hate him, don't spam him, I just don't agree with him on this. The other stuff, I do like it, I think it's cool content, I think it's valuable, I think it's reasonable, and I'm glad that he covered all this content together, and I like to see how it gets set up in other cases with his content, hoping the best, whatever. I don't necessarily hate him. I don't think it's big flatline bullshit. Rewatching it with a more mature take in the matter, and I hope you guys will be reasonable to equate your own observation on his stuff before you take my word into, even though I do think my definitive case account of fact with it. I'm not saying just with my opinion to be lying fact that everything about his points under cases are fully dumb, because I do agree reasonably on how Pyramid Head and Black come to it stop him, not in a fight, but this sort of coming case of how the realm is set. You feel me? And then one of the other things that I wanted to mention was, obviously, yeah, you guys consider it that more mature. I'm vibing with everything that I was trying to say here. You obviously, I can talk. I'm articulating myself good. Very grand in speech, and I'm trying to be super dramatic. That's taking mine for how I'm trying to say things. Hope you guys have enjoyed. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. I'm sorry, 5 is the new Imam. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace out, more man.